we'll call the Public Works Committee, Parks, Rec, and Railroad Committee to order. First thing we need to do is approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting. Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion, corrections? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hajos so we can run through this.
I'm going to apologize now because I do have a presentation to provide you all today, and I hope I can make it through it fairly quick. But I guess the gist of this presentation will be asking for more money from the county for my budget. The first one for Parks and Recs we have is a request for transfer funds into the Park and Recreation budget for utilities. As you recall, I came back last month and said that we didn't have enough into the budget. We didn't know where we were going to be at with the railroad. So right now I'm just asking for enough money to be put in my budget for the next 5 months. I think that gets us through about July. $7,500. I spoke with the budget officer and I spoke with the treasurer as well, and this $7,500 would come from contingency.
Okay, moved by Mr. Garrity, seconded by Mr. Molino. Let's have one question, Kevin. There wasn't you and I both were copied on an email about possibly different way to look at it. Is that a no-go?
Yeah, there was a question that came up after the last meeting that said, basically asked the question of what type of batteries that we had out there, that the person had assumed the batteries we had there were batteries that would last forever, and that we would not have to keep this trickle charge on them. That's not the case. These are a different type of batteries, and if we don't keep this trickle charge on these batteries, the batteries will go bad. We could also take those batteries out and store them, but the types of batteries these are, that would disrupt the plates, and it would cost us a fortune, or anybody a fortune, to replace them. So for the I'd saying the small amount of money just to keep that trickle charge on them, it's worth it for us.
Okay. Thank you. You ready, Mr. Wild?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I have no idea what you're referring to.
Well, no, we had...
Here's one right here.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay, are you ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I don't have anything else for the referral and pending items we just went through, and I didn't have any information for discussion or review except that the Parks and Recs is gearing up right now to do their fish dock.
Okay. Anything else under Parks and Rec? Okay, with that, we'll move right into the Public Works.
Okay.
APW.
So I'm going to go through the first 6 resolutions, page 3, 10, 11, 18, 19, and 26. I had brought to committee last month, or actually the previous month, that we were awarded the Bridge New York projects. The county received almost $5.5 million worth of Bridge New York projects. 3 of these, which I'm bringing today, are culverts. They're 100% funded by New York State Department of Transportation. So the first on page 3, 11, and 19 are basically a request to authorize a new grant agreement with New York State DOT for those culvert projects. And then the page 10, 18, and 26, 10 would be to increase a capital project, because we had already initiated doing a capital project up on 13th Lake, and then the other 2 for County Route 11, Finkel Brook, and Beanie Brook on County Route 32 were to establish a capital project.
Yeah, Rick, is there a way to combine all of
We
them?
can move all these. 3 through 26.
Yes.
Supervisor Loeb made the motion, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I'm going to jump around real quick. I want to skip 27, 28, 30, and 32, because that's going to be part of my presentation. I'd like to skip down to 36, which is a request for transfers. This is just for salaries for some overtime that we had through this year, that I didn't have enough in the budget for overtime for snow and ice removal, and then I needed to transfer some money for some salt.
What's the dollar amount? Not on that page. Mr. Chairman, sorry.
So the total dollar amount is...
71,000.
No, the total dollar amount on page 36 is, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, 70,000 for the salt, and then the The rest of it's for overtime, is $1,500.
And Kevin,
Let's get the resolution on the floor of the motion.
I'll-
Supervisor Loeb,
I'll make that motion.
seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Okay, discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Kevin, 70 grand, how much more of that is, what percentage above your budget is the 70,000 that we spent on salt this year?
It's over budget.
It's over?
Yeah.
But what was your original budget for that, do you recall?
I don't recall offhand. We had put in for this year approximately 6,500 tons of salt, 6,500 to 6,700, and right now we're 1,500 tons over. And it's approximately $70 a ton, $72.
I would be remiss if I didn't comment that, the towns which plow those county roads also have gone over budget, although it's not reflected in the agreement that we have with the county.
Tough luck.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring that up.
It's been a tough year on salt this year. The rain and ice storms that we've had this year really put a damper, or really cut into the budget for the use of salt that we had this year. That's why we're at where we are.
Supervisor
The
Loeb?
payment for this comes out of contingency?
No, the payment for this is coming out of our, out of my county road fund for road and bridge materials. I just didn't have enough in the snow and ice contract.
Okay, we ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next two items on the agenda, again, skipping down for 37 and 38, is a notice of intent to fill positions. I just had my senior account clerk leave. She didn't necessarily resign from the county. We refer to it as a resignation, but she's gone back to DSS with the possibility of a job promotion. And then the MEO Heavy that I have a position for, a gentleman was promoted into the Highway Construction Supervisor 1, which opened up the MEO Heavy position.
I'll move 37, 38.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The last item I have on there for, on 39 is to establish a new contract for auto body services. We typically don't use this a lot on DPW equipment. We have a gentleman in the shop that does a lot of our small auto body work, but on the fleet vehicle and the nurses' cars, we typically send that to the auto body shop for the insurance and such. So we only had one bidder. It was Warrensburg Car Care. So we'd like to award the contract or establish a contract with them for body work.
Moved by Supervisor Loeb, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Any discussion?
I have just one quick question. I mean, how do you bid something like that? Because you really don't know what every dent is going to be,
We do it based on an hourly rate,
Is that how we normally do it? I mean,
and the tab sheet is in there.
on the back page. Oh,
Only
it looks like
one
reasonable
bidder.
pricing.
Sorry, only one bidder? It's surprising, but okay.
Do we have a motion?
We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, the next thing that I have on the agenda is basically to run through our pavement program at DPW, and just to sort of go over, and as I said in the beginning to start it off, is I'm going to be asking or requesting more money. When I started with DPW in 2008, there wasn't really a pavement program in place. I had asked at the time of the superintendent and deputy superintendent if I could start going through a pavement evaluation, basically to look at our roads. The way the roads were picked in the past is a foreman would come in and tell the highway manager, hey, Warrensburg Road is not in that great a shape, maybe we ought to do something this year. Roads got done. It wasn't the best scenario. We didn't look at the roads as being, what type of road it is, what type of treatment it needs. Most of it was, at that time, was either strictly an overlay or a reconstruction. So back then in 2009, it was the first pavement evaluation report that I had done for the county. And it was a report that I handed out to committee, and I've handed them out every year since then for committee members to take a look at, as well as for board members to take a look at. This year, we've refined it a little bit, and again, the process by which we're doing this is basically to stretch the dollar as far as we can within the county. As you all know, there's roads in very poor shape, and there's roads in say halfway decent shape. The ones that are in halfway decent shape are really the ones that we're trying to save today, the ones that we can extend the life on. And as I go through this program, you'll see what I mean in the dollars that are spent through the years is we're chasing ourselves, trying to continue to just do reconstruction roads and not save the good roads that we have. So basically, just behind this is save your good roads, and with that savings, you'll produce money to eventually work on those poor roads. So I'll start going through the pavement program right now. Again, the gist of our program is the right road, the right treatment, and at the right time. Our program objectives, and I'll go through them real quick. Maintain and repair pavements to maximize their useful service life and as cost effectively as possible. How can this be accomplished? Through a planned and implemented program that prioritizes pavement strategies and then balance the need for us to be able to have to reconstruct roads. County road system at a glance, we have 244, I don't know why that did that, we have 244.24 center line miles, 496 lane miles. Some of you may ask why the 496, it's not just double the 244. We have left turn lanes, Corinth Road, exit 18 is a perfect example. There's a left turn lane from the city line to the northway. That adds another lane mile onto here. Of those, the roads are classified. This is a federal classification as either rural or urban, and then under each one of those, they'll list them as either major collector, minor collector, local road. Right now, for rural roads, we have over 244. 206 of them are basically rural roads, and only 37 change are the urban roads, and that would be Queensbury, parts of Glens Falls, probably parts of Warrensburg as well are listed into there. Of those roads, the federally eligible roads make up about 48 miles of the county road system. When I did this presentation and we put this together, I didn't include the money that we receive for federal funding, so that would take away a little bit from my totals in the end of this, but I just wanted to give you an overall feeling of how we go about rating the roads and the money that we want to put towards those roads. So these rural ones that you see that are federally aid eligible roads outside, these all right here fall within Queensbury. These two roads, and there's only two roads that are outside of Queensbury that are federally aid eligible roads. One of them is Peaceful Valley Road up in Johnsburg that runs between 28 and Route 8, and the other one is Amsterdville Road that runs from Pottersville up towards Newcomb. Those are the only two outside of Queensbury. County road system at a glance per each municipality. You can see it's pretty, except for a couple of the smaller towns, the larger towns is pretty evenly distributed through. Chester having the most county roads, followed by Thurman, Horicon, Johnsburg. Queensbury, has the most. But again, there's a fair amount of roads in Queensbury that are covered by federal aid eligibility. Basically, the program starts with three questions. Which roads do we fix? How do we fix them? And when do we fix them? The right roads, we go each year. I have my engineering staff go out and do what we refer to as the pavement evaluation. It's a visual evaluation of the roads. DOT has a rating system, and it includes, whether it has wheel path rutting, alligator cracking, transverse cracking, delamination, and based on those, they'll rate them as certain criteria, whether they're good, fair, or poor roads. Again, all roads are surveyed annually throughout the county, and this may be a good thing for some of the towns. I was talking with Matt outside of here. Some of the towns might want to jump on this. It doesn't work for gravel roads, but it does work for your paved roads, and I'd be more than happy to provide a rating system to the towns if so. again, I don't know why this is doing this. It didn't do it when I had it this morning. 10 to 9 roads are basically brand new roads. They're in excellent condition. Good roads are 8 to 7 roads where they might need some crack sealing, they might need some mill and fill, maybe an overlay. Again, it depends on what visually is happening on those roads. 6 roads that are in fair position is fair condition, a 6, basically are roads that probably need some type of rehabilitation. Typically that's maybe a 2-course treatment of road with pavement, and then 5 or less are just poor roads. They've reached that point and there's not a lot that we can do with them, and those you'll see are the more costly of roads. This is typically a deterioration of pavement, the surface condition rating over time. You'll see, with the first year, a 10, it's a brand new road even in a 9. As you go out through the years, if nothing is done to the road, it'll deteriorate, and it's probably about 22 years that a road will deteriorate to basically a poor condition of a road. Pavement age, again, I just went through it, 0 years, 2 years, 4 years, you're typically at about an 8. 7 years, you're starting to hit that borderline of 7. These are the roads that we want to save, and then 13 years out is when you're really getting into those more expensive rehabs for roads. With that being said, we look at what the right treatment is based on those condition ratings. The rating treatment is basically a 10 to 9, we don't do anything with. When we get a road down to an 8, we do what we call non-paving preventive maintenance, which is basically a crack seal. Most of your roads will typically have minor cracks open up here and there. Fill the cracks, not allow water to get into those roads. When the roads get down to a 7, there's numerous treatments we can do. Some of those are overlays, as I said. Some of them are a mill and fill. Sometimes we use a chip seal. We don't use that a lot on county roads, but I know the towns do. We have used it in the past, or a micro pave. That's your preventive maintenance. When we get down to a rating of a 6, typically the roads involve either some type of minor reconstruction to them or rehabilitation. Typically that's where we come into those multi-course pavement treatments. And then again, when they get down to a 5 or less, they become major reconstruction and very costly. Here's basically the graph showing at those times where you would do those types of maintenance for the roads. The right time, when do we do this? Basically, as part of this program, we're trying to save the roads, our good roads, and prolong them as long as we can. The way for us to do that is to keep the water out, revive the surface, and extend the life of the pavement. This is something I threw in there. It is far less expensive to keep good roads good than it is to make fair or poor roads good. And basically what it comes down to is time is equal to money. The treatments, costs associated with those treatments are do nothing, which we don't have to do on the newer roads. It doesn't cost a thing. Typically for a crack sealing, it's 7 cents per square foot. For the overlays, mill and fills, minor surface treatments, it's anywhere from 45 cents to $1 per square foot. The rehabilitations on the roads range from $185 to $210 per square foot, and then for the full depth reconstruction type of projects, it can range anywhere from $3.60 to $6.30 per square foot. These prices that we've come up with is a range that we have based on bidding our projects out over the last couple of years. Going through of whether or not we do the preventive maintenance or we let the roads go and do the reconstruction in the end. Typically what we try to do is, and what we're promoting to do is after 7 years, when our roads get down to that rate, it's about 7 years, after our roads hit that level of being a 7, typically we want to go back and save that road. So we'll do what we call the preventive maintenance, and that's that mill or fill or overlay. Again, probably at 14 years we do the same thing, and then typically at this point, after that many years, when we get to 23 years, we'll probably have to do something more, and that may be that 2-course type of treatment that we have to do. So that's what we're proposing to be done from here on out on Warren County roads, and the costs associated with us doing that. Again, these are costs that we've received from contractors for doing this type of work. For the first year, $92,000. The second treatment, again, $92,000, and then when we get into that rehabilitation, $244,000. Now this is a per mile cost associated with those. Average condition rating for those is an 8.5. That's pretty good. That's where we want to save or keep those roads. If we defer the life cycle cost and we wait until 22 years to reconstruct that road and do a major rehab reconstruction, your average surface condition over that time is about a 7.2, and that cost is $627,000. So do a comparison of the both. You're saving yourself approximately $199,000 to letting roads go to the point that you can't do anything anymore. You have to reconstruct, to doing this preventive maintenance over the years. So this,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. What is mill and fill?
where you have existing pavement on the ground, and it may have delaminated in areas, or you may have some cracking in areas, that you mill that existing pavement off. It may be an inch, inch and a half, and then you pave back over that area you've just milled.
As opposed to an overlay?
As opposed to an overlay, you don't mill off the existing surface, you just put a surface treatment right over the top of it.
Thank you.
Kevin, they just did a mill fill on going up to Bolton, you know, they did areas,
That's
right?
correct. Yeah, well
You've
done.
been
Yeah.
driven up there to get rid of the bad areas.
So again, going through the preventive maintenance to the deferred maintenance, life cycle 22 or 23 years to 22 years, there's your cost difference, $428 for preventive maintenance, deferred maintenance $627. Your conditioning rating is 8.5, 7.2. Your interim repairs, I didn't necessarily estimate this, but between those treatments, preventive maintenance treatments, again, we would come back through and do some type of crack sealing, something in between to extend that life as well. On the deferred maintenance, you're crack sealing, you're doing pothole work, you're patching, and again, we didn't necessarily put a cost to those. Other factors to include is it's more effective for snow and ice removal on a good road. As you know, most of you are in a town on a bad road that has some type of wheel path rutting or cracking, it's very difficult to remove some of that snow and ice from the roadways. So, evaluating those funding levels, the goal basically, as I said, is to maximize the useful service life of county roadway systems as cost effectively as possible. Utilizing these preservation principles, varying levels of funding, we basically did a projection of surface condition ratings to evaluate the effects of the entire system on the county. These projections were developed using surface condition ratings, time-based deterioration, which again, that's subject to, we did it as, you know, a road as 7 is going to deteriorate to a 6, it's going to deteriorate to a 5, not necessarily putting a rate in there. It's too difficult to put that in the charts. They're all going to deteriorate basically at the same level. There are other factors that come involved with that. It's weather, it's maintenance on our roads, and which I'm going to get to in the end. Maintenance is huge on our roads. If we can't get to the maintenance, we're not maintaining them. It's hard to predict that in this rating system. So for us, the priorities are, 1, to crack seal roads that we can. Anything that's got a surface condition of an 8 or better, you know, we're going to crack seal those roads. 2 is to maximize the number of miles treated annually with a surface condition rating of a 7. That's basically, as those charts show, that's everything that gets to a 7, that's that preventive maintenance. Rehabilitate as many roads as we can during those off years that we're doing all the maximizing the SCRs of 7. And then the final would be, which we really don't want to have to get into this, is to rehabilitate or reconstruct 5s or worse. Here's basically the existing conditions today in Warren County. As you'll see, our 7s to 10s, we have a pretty good amount of roads, almost, you know, from 7 to 150 miles worth of roads out of the 244 that are in decent shape. We want to keep them there. Those 6s that are at that 53.83, within a year's time, they can drop into that 5 level. We don't want them to do that. We want to try to save as many of those as we can. Some of the things to look at in the next graphs that I show is just basically the trend lines of the surface condition ratings of 7s, and that fine line of where it changes from either being a rehabilitation, which it drops back down under a 7, to keep it above a 7, as well as the 5s, which are the roads that get poorer over time. This is basically what I just said. So here's a no-build program over the next 10 years. And you can see, based on the bar chart, right now we have roads that are 6 or better, we have almost 200 miles worth of roads. If no money, and not that the county would do this, if no money is put into the roads whatsoever, you'll see over time that any of our really good roads will disappear, and we'll have a significant number of roads fall into that 5 and 6, either poor condition or rehabilitation condition. If we do typically just CHIPS money, Pave New York money, and if we ever receive extreme winter recovery money anymore, you could again see we're not really improving. And this is that 7 line I was talking about in here. It has a slight uptick. This in here is just as I was saying before. I can't predict the deterioration with other factors. It's just a typical. This is the rate it's going to deteriorate. Period. But you'll see that those 5s, those poors, are getting more each year if we don't add in more money. As you'll see, again, the 7 across here, we do have a slight uptick, but again, these roads really, throughout the years, the 5s and 6 or poors are not improving. As you see, as we go through it, the more money is put in, the better off that we are. At a $4.5 million per year program over the next 10 years, you'll see a significant number of roads similar to what we have today that are in very good shape, rated at 7 or better, and there's very few 6s that are in here as well. And again, the 5s, they haven't gotten much better. We're catching up on them a little bit, but again, that's that funding. As I said, that trend line, no money put in. You're going to see, if you did a best fit line on this red line, you'll see that we're never going to catch up. With a slight uptick in money as we go through, you'll see us slowly increasing on those 7s or greater, which is great. But you'll see on the 5s or worse, we're not capturing those. Again, unless more money is put into the program. Right here is we're at almost 40 miles, a little over 40 miles of roads that are poor. Again, if no money is put in, we're in 20 or 10 years, we're going to have almost 90 miles for the roads that are in that poor shape. Projections, 2.5 or 2.25 annual program, not increase our surface condition rating of 7 or greater roads over a 10-year period, and it does nothing for our, it basically increases the number of poor roads that we have. $3 million program provides a modest increase of the 7s. Again, it results in an increase of our poor roads. $3.5 million program, again, provides a good increase of the surface condition ratings of 7 or greater roads, but still does only a modest decrease in the surface condition rating of 5s. And again, the $4 million program, the same. There's a slight increase of those surface condition rating 5s, and then the $4.5 million program would be the ideal scenario. What is the ideal funding? Annual funding, you could do greater than $3 million, would increase the total mileage of roads good over 10 years' time. It wouldn't do a lot for our poor roads. What funding levels would really assist us in getting those poor roads or grabbing those poor roads? We did basically, if you were to do the county system today, with no inflation, 2019 dollars of where we're at with our roads, this really gives you a good overall picture. Right now, if I was to redo all our roads from 8 or less for all the different types of treatments, it would cost us, for 240 more miles worth of roads, $39 million. In 10 years from now, if you put no money into the program, those same roads, it would cost me $92 million to do. And again, as you can see over time, the more money that's put in, the better we get. If you see, if it's a $4.5 million, we're actually better, would be better than where we're at today with the condition of our road system. So as shown in the graph, an annual program of $4 million or more provides an ideal balance of preservation prioritization and costly rehabilitation work. Annual funding below $4 million will result in higher total restoration costs 10 years from now than in existing conditions. The bottom line, what does this mean? You'll see how our roads change over years. Right now, good or fair roads, we're at 204. I don't have to talk about the no money in the system, but if it was just the CHIPS money and the Pave New York and the Extreme Winter Recovery, in 10 years, we're going to wind up worse than where we are now. If we go to the 3 million, we're still not quite the same. Once we get to this 3.5 million and 4 million, you'll see that we're equal to where we're at today. And that's it. So, with that being said, I have the 3 resolutions or 4 resolutions I have in here are to award contracts and to transfer money for the road projects that we have already established for 2019. What I'm asking the committee is to, it's sort of 2 parts here, is the first being, I had gone into budget season this year asking for $3.2 million. After our budget discussions, we only received $2.5 million in our budget, and that $2.5 million, again, as you can see by the chart up there, really does not cover me of gaining any type of ground on our roads. Frank and Ron had both asked me to come back later on this year, as well as Matt, and said, you know, if our sales tax numbers are good, if the fund balance is good, to request more money to get us back up to the request that I had. We did find money, and you probably all saw it in the budget analysis report that Rob Lynch puts out. There was approximately $1.8 million in the county road fund. Of that $1.8 million, 2 of those roads were roads that were left over from previous years because we expected maybe some town work that was going to happen at least on one of those, and the other one we had to redo our design on. It needed a little bit more than what we originally had anticipated. So those roads sat for a little while. So that left us with about approximately $827,000 left over. So what I'm proposing or asking this committee is I'm going to transfer, I would like to transfer that existing money into existing road projects today. You'll see as the bid tab sheet as I go through it, the prices that came in from the contractor were a little higher than what we expected. There was also a couple of changes of scope on some of our road projects that needed a little bit more. One of them was Gore Mountain Access Road. We had only assumed in the beginning that we were just going to do the roadway work, and that's one of those mill and fill type of projects. We've since looked at it, and the shoulders have deteriorated quite a bit over this past winter, as well as another road that I'm going to ask money for is the Glen Athol Road project. Again, another road that has deteriorated quite fast through this winter. So my first proposal would be is to award the contract to the contractors for the road projects that are on here. If you go to page 27, you will see that the first one is awarded to Reifenberg Construction, and that is for projects that we already had in the budget this year, which was the Peaceful Valley Road project and the Gore Mountain project. You'll see this year we awarded a couple different projects to contractors. In the past, we always awarded sort of one. This year, we tried to group them together based on economy of sale to see if we get a little bit better prices. Some we did, others we didn't. So the first one would be to award those 2 roads to Reifenberg Construction in the amount of $1,103,814.65. You want to go through each one and ask the questions, or do them all and then?
What does,
Do them together.
we can do them all together.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Mr.
could
Lowe?
ask a question which will affect what you say. Apples and oranges. I'm not quite following what you're saying we need. We've got $2.5 million. You would like to have 4.5, but then you already have contracts. Here it is, just about April. You must have contracts already set up for the 2.5. Is this all extra?
It's not extra.
So
These are the ones. These are
Continue.
right. These are the ones that are associated with that $2.5 million. But I'm going to ask that some of that county road surplus money that's left over to be put in these projects. Some of the bid prices did come in higher than we expected. And we had a couple changes of scope and work. So to make these projects whole for the contractors, I'm going to ask for a transfer of funds of existing money we already have in the county road fund to be transferred into these road projects. There are 3 new road projects that we actually did put out to bid to see what the, I'm sorry, 2 of them put out to bid. The third one, the process we're doing on that one is a hammer mill process, and we already put out that bid earlier this year. So we have a number to that project already. But the first thing I want to do is award the contracts and transfer the money to make those projects whole. Then I'm going to ask for more money on top of that.
You'll tell us when that occurs.
I will. Yep.
All right.
So again, the first one is to Reichenberg Construction. The second one is to Peckham Road Corporation, and that's for Friends Lake Road, Knapp Hill Road, and then County Route 52 in Queensbury and West Mountain Road. Then the final contract would be with Evolution Construction Services, and that would be for 13th Lake Road, East Shore Drive, and Beaver Pond Road, and Mill and Main Streets in Luzerne. The last sheet, as part of those contracts, is the tab sheet. If you take a look at the tab sheet, you'll see based on the prices that they had provided, these are the low bidders for each one of these. So again, with that being said, I don't have the road project list in front of me of what money was in each project, but what I'm asking for on the next 2 pages or next 3 pages of the transfers is to make those projects whole for the contractors to complete those work. And I think it comes out to be, give me 1 second and I can take a look at it, approximately $283,290.90 of transfers for those road projects for the contract.
Is that out of the road fund?
And that comes out of the county road fund.
Okay. Mr. Garrity?
Is there any way when we do these transfers, we can put a total amount?
I can.
on pages from now on?
I can.
Mr. Loeb?
I'll make a motion to the floor.
Okay.
All of these, then I have a question.
Do we have a second? Mr. Wild?
Yes, I have
Okay.
a question also.
Because the question goes back earlier, you're presenting this now, is this all covered in the budget, or are we going to wake up tomorrow going, what happened to that $200,000?
No, this is all in the county road fund. This is money that's been left over from, as I said, there was approximately $827,000 left over in the county road fund. These go back to projects back to 2014. In the budget analysis report that Rob sent you, he said there was $1.8 million in there. Again, that was for 2 existing roads that will be done this year. But the remainder of the money was approximately $800,000. So I'm using a portion of that $800,000, which is already in the county road fund, to foot, or at least to make these projects whole.
Is this something we do every year? I mean, it seems that my memory is, but we're not, this isn't an unusual move.
No, it's not. We always wait for the bids to come in from the contractors, and there's, I mean, we do an engineer's estimate, but again, there was a change of scope on some of the projects that probably raised the cost of them a little bit more. Others were just, perfect example is, I don't know how many of you travel West Mountain Road in Queensbury, but there's a section of West Mountain Road around Leland Estates that we thought we could just do an overlay type of project to. We've since gone out and done cores, and this is above just doing your surface ratings. We've actually done cores out there, and the sub-base is in need of some work out there. It's saturated, so we're proposing in that 1,300-foot section. It doesn't make sense just to overlay that. I want to fix it right, which is going to allow us to do a reclamation in that area.
Mr. McGowan?
It doesn't happen to be at the bottom of the Queensbury Water Tower area, is it?
No, there's the cell tower up there.
Well, the water tower and the cell tower, and it's a big stink because it goes up, it's a huge hill there, and the stormwater comes right down the side. Is that kind of, because that's right across the street from Leland Estates, is that where your saturated area you're talking about?
That is a saturated area up there, but a lot of that is not just, it's not just water runoff off the hill. That's an area where it's very wooded. As most of you know, if you have treed roads and you don't clear out roads, they never dry out. That's an area that you'll always, there's quite a bit of a canopy, and you'll see that just in that Gurney Lane area, they've started to do some tree clearing now. It's to clear that out, to let the sunlight in there to dry out those roads. Water is our worst enemy for roads, and if the roads are not able to dry out.
Well, the only reason I bring this up is because I know there's been a problem with, one of the neighbors in Queensbury, the runoffs, it's the towers, and I know it sheets down that.
It does come down.
So, you know, I'm wondering if Queensbury might want to help us out there, because there is a problem.
But there's a part two to all this money I'm requesting. I haven't gotten to that part yet, but there's a part two to that, which is the maintenance on our roads. And then I'll get to it.
All right, so, yeah, I'm not trying to get ahead of you, but I mean, I'm just a little familiar with that area.
Mr. Wild?
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Kevin, just to help me understand some of this, I'm looking at page 33 in the very top line, from code to code, right? We've got a Peaceful Valley Road project, but you're taking money out of a Peaceful Valley Road project and moving it to an East Shore project.
That's correct.
And is this money there to be moved because it was a 2015 project and you can't use it for anything else unless you move it?
No, I can use it. This is just projects that in the past, the work was completed on the road. They may have budgeted more than what the project needed, or we kept the contractor in line, or so he didn't go over budget and we saved money. So it's just money that's sitting there right now that we can transfer anywhere.
So how much money do we have like that in your projects that are unallocated right now?
That's the approximately $827,000 that exist.
That's all of them then?
Yep.
Okay. And on page 35, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, you're taking 2019 Knapp Hill Road over to New Hague Road. Is that because you're saying that I'm not going to do the work on Knapp Hill this year and I'm going to put
No,
my funds to
because
something
Knapp Hill
else?
came in under budget from the contractor's prices.
Okay.
And the New Hague Road, some of the work that's needed out there is over budget, so we're just transferring from one to the
Thanks for
other.
helping me to understand, Kevin.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman.
So, is there a motion on that?
We do have a motion and a second, still discussing. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Mr. Garrity?
I think it's time to look at a 1% increase in sales tax, get these road projects back on track, and the other things, like the $1 million for Board of Elections. You know, it's the people come in and spend the money in our community, maybe we ought to raise the sales tax and start doing what's right, because if we don't, we're gonna have pretty bad roads here in 5 years.
Mr. Loeb?
Picking up on that, 7 or 8 years ago, Jeff Tennyson gave a similar presentation, and it made me think, holy cow, if we don't start putting money into our roads and bridges and culverts, we're in trouble. My recollection is we haven't really changed the amount of money we put in. So where are we compared to where we were 8 years ago?
We're better. We're better than we were 8 years ago. We have put more money into the budget, but also, as part of that, 7 or 8 years ago, we never received Pave New York or Extreme Winter Recovery money. It was always chips and then whatever the county put in extra. Since that time, although it's not in this year, and I guess I can get into this real quick, I just went to Advocacy Day 2 weeks ago down in Albany to basically ask for more money. We were looking for a $150 million increase to chips, and then we were looking for the governor to put in the $65 million in Extreme Winter Recovery. It looks like the Senate and the Assembly both have the Extreme Winter Recovery in there, and it looks like the Senate has included in theirs the $150 million in chips. Doesn't look like the governor has either one of those in there. So now, if the Extreme Winter Recovery doesn't come through this year, these numbers will change, because now I will only have $2 million that comes from the state and not the $2.25 million that comes from the state. So we have gotten a little bit better, but by no means are we catching up yet.
Just one other comment, I agree, as far as the concept, we need to spend more money on our roads. I think I've said that on record many times. Because we're not even at the chairman sent us a letter about the bike path. And so we can't even look at something like that because we can't take care of the roads as we have right now without putting in a substantial amount of money. So how we get to there, I'm not sure, but I think we need to.
Mr. Wild?
Well, that was one of the questions I wanted to bring up. If we're doing it, what are we doing to widen a little bit of a shoulder for the bicyclists?
Very tough for me to do that depending on where the roads are. I have a tendency to, any new road that we reconstruct or pave, I have a tendency to try to widen the shoulders as much as I can. Give an example, West Mountain Road, it's very difficult for me to do that. West Mountain Road is a roadway by use. We don't own the right-of-way there. It's a roadway by use. So it's hard for me to expand our pavement section into property that basically is not mine. I maintain basically as much as I can beyond the edge of roadway for drainage. But as you know, you're familiar with West Mountain Road is, I get a lot of pushback when I start cutting up people's lawn because their grass is right up to the edge of my pavement. I want to get my water off the road, and there is a section of West Mountain Road that holds water, and I really need to get in there this year. I really need to talk to the property owners so that I can do that maintenance and get that water off the road. But so I try to do the best I can with widening the pavement in the areas that I can. I've had long conversations with the Warren County Quality and Safe Bicycle Organization. I do it where I can.
Don't we own don't we have the right of way of 26 feet off the center line?
That's not true. If we took the right-of-way, if it was a town road at one time and they gave it to me as a 3-rod road, then it's a 3-rod road. A lot of my rural towns own to the center, the property owners own to the center line of the road. They don't have any claim necessarily to it because we've maintained it for more than 10 years. But that's where the right-of-way by use comes in.
Mr. Garrity?
I mean, the standard that they wanted us to build all roads to was 53 feet. They gave us that, 5 years ago, and that sounds nice for these bike lanes and stuff, but it's very difficult to do. And we're not going to improve unless you go to that wider road. It's hard. I still think if you raise the sales tax, though, you could work on your roads. You got to find a revenue source.
Mr. Wild?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's for a budget officer. I recall during the budget discussions, Kevin's budget was cut with the anticipation that if the sales tax money came in, it would be able to make this up. So making this up is how much? Was it supposed to be this $3 million a year that we're adding, or is it 1.5 million? The budget increase?
I removed 634.
And your request is for 3.5 million more?
No.
4 million more?
No.
4.5 million more?
I already have 2.56 million in my budget this year. I also have that $800,000 that I said is in the county road fund, which is all these old projects. I want to use that 2.5 million that I was given. I'm asking the request for transfer here to make those bid projects whole. The remainder of the money, which is, I'll just shoot out a number, 600,000 give or take, 585,000. I want to transfer that to 2 new road projects, and then I still want to ask the committee as well as the board for $547,000.
Too many numbers, Kevin, I'm sorry.
So that's still
What do you need?
below, it's still below the 1.2 in theory that you would need for your program.
600, but...
Okay, I had the right calculation. Thank you for
Right.
So if you want to go through for this.
Why don't we call a question?
First, right?
Can we call a question on?
Yes.
that we-
on the
Okay.
transfer.
Call a question on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And that includes all the contracts with the contractors as well as the transfer?
Yes.
Okay. So the next thing is, if you look at that tab sheet that I had on page 32, there's 2 roads that are listed on the bottom of that. One is Warrensburg Road, and the other one is Coolidge Hill Road. Both of those roads were on my initial request for budget this year, and based on, as Frank just said, pulling $600,000, give or take, out of that, those are the roads that came out. I wasn't doing it purposely to the chairman of the board or the budget officer. It's just, again, based on my presentation I just provided, those roads are in poor shape.
I'll make a motion that we fund those 2 roads out of the fund balance, the tune of...
Where are they located?
I'm not sure we have to do all those. That's why I was, if you allow me just to finish these last 2, I think...
Time's getting short,
Okay.
and I'm getting hungry.
So I would transfer a portion of that money, the leftover that we have in the county road fund. We just transferred 283 to make the other projects whole. Now I would request to transfer 585,000 to make Warrensburg Road and Coolidge Hill Road complete for this year based on the contract supplier price.
That's my motion.
Motion made by Supervisor Garrity, seconded by Supervisor Hogan. Question?
Where are these located?
One of them
Lynchburg
is,
and Bolton.
yeah, one of them
Lynchburg
is
is Stony
Stony
Creek.
Creek and
Stony
Bolton.
Creek. Sorry.
Orchard Road's in Stony Creek.
We ready?
I don't, too many
Well,
numbers.
which is in Bolton.
I'm sorry.
Coolidge is in Bolton. You want to know where they were?
Kevin, may I request that when you do stuff like this, you kind of give me a sheet that kind of lays it all out instead of numbers all over, right? You mentioned you want to transfer $283,000. That was from the original budget discussions that you were reduced, right? Plus another $585?
No. The $283,000 that you just passed the resolution on was I have that money already in my budget.
Okay.
It's county road
All
fund
right,
money.
I got it. All right, leftover.
Yep.
585 is the new.
The 585 is not new. That's money that's still left over in the county road fund.
That's the balance of what he had left over.
But we haven't addressed that yet as far as the resolution. Correct.
Bless you.
We're going to address it.
That's what this, we have a motion on the floor.
So you want to
For an
apply
additional
that
585,000
$828,000 is left over in your budget then, or,
County road fund. Yep.
all right, okay, I got it. We're
Okay.
we're discussing just the transfer of that money, or I thought we did that already?
We transferred the $283,000, and now I'm requesting, we have to do this sort of in two parts. I'm requesting, first of all, that we create three new road projects, which would be the two that you see on this sheet, which is the Warrensburg Road and the Coolidge Hill Road.
He had
Okay.
some projects he's moving,
I got it,
he had the contract. Now he has these other projects he
Yeah.
wants to
I
add.
got it,
And I made the motion,
okay.
And we have a
That'll take
second.
us up to
585.
800,000.
So are we,
Whatever,
for whatever the amount.
right.
we okay to
Yes.
call the question? Okay. Did we already, all those in,
I just want to make sure with the minutes this is correct. I need to establish
You should
these
write
three
it out.
new road projects first. So that's the first resolution would be to establish the three road projects. The second one would be to transfer money into two of these three to make them whole. The third one, I have to transfer money, which would be new.
okay, so the money isn't part of this resolution. This is establishing three
Three new road projects.
road projects.
With no
We'll
money
refresh the-
behind us.
Not yet. That's going to be the next discussion. So the three projects again, Kevin, so that everybody's
Are
clear?
Warrensburg Road, Coolidge Hill Road, and the one I talked about also was Glen Athol Road.
Okay, are we ready for that? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The next step would be to transfer the surplus funds, which is the money in the county road fund, that $585,000 left over, to Warrensburg Road and Coolidge Hill Road.
Supervisor Loeb, do we have a second? Supervisor Merlino? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The last one, and this is the two-part, the last one I'm asking for is I have to do an amend the budget for the Glen Athol Road project that you just established, and I want to be able to take money from, or request money to fulfill completing that project, as well as a portion of Coolidge Hill, because the money before that we just transferred didn't cover Coolidge Hill. But this money would now come from the fund balance, and it's $547,000.
I will make that motion.
Okay, Supervisor Garrity, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Mr. Budget Officer? I'm going to check with him first.
You're
Okay,
not doing this because you're hungry, right?
are we ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Glad to see that Warrensburg Road get done.
Yeah.
I've traveled that a few times.
Will you?
That's Stony Creek Road, right? Into your,
That was the one that got
yeah, that was pretty,
I think
We'll
this
do
is
that
next year.
next
That's
year.
a rough shape.
Well, that's why
It
you
is.
found the money so
Absolutely.
quickly.
I need to get out more as the chairman of the committee.
I know I did lots of forms.
Yeah.
Couldn't do the forms unless they approved it. The last piece of this puzzle that I had, I will make this very quick. Dan Smith, who's my shop manager, had requested approximately $1.3 million for equipment this year. As you all are aware, we have probably almost a $10 million fleet of equipment. After budget and after Dan may have inflated some of those numbers, I asked him to refine those numbers. I think we got it down to 1.1 million. I believe we received 688,000 as part of the budget process. That covered not all the equipment that Dan was requested, and a big piece of what we're talking about with this road reconstruction is maintenance. I have requested my highway manager to put together a pavement plan, or a maintenance plan for our roadways, a very aggressive one, because that's something that has fallen off by the wayside in the past 8-9 years. And again, it's these spots where I have water that's staying on the roads, trees not cleared from the road, not allowing these roads to dry out and get any better. One of the pieces of equipment that Danny uses is a grade-all. If you're unfamiliar with a grade-all, it's a piece of equipment that we use to do a lot of our ditch work. The grade-all that we have now is probably close to 15 years old, and it's probably just about exceeded its life. Danny band-aids it every year as much as you can. We have hydraulic leaks. We have a boom on those that twist and turn. They're getting warped. For him to put more money into that grade-all, to me, we're just throwing good money away after they're bad. So what I'm requesting is to basically make our machine balance or the machine budget whole, and that would require approximately almost $502,000. Now, there's another piece of that I've talked with a couple of the towns already. Is the only other piece of equipment that I'd like to add in there is what they call a hot box. As you all know, we had a lot of issues this year with our potholes. Andrew's laughing because we have significant issues up there. Not my road. This hot box that I'm referring to can take hot mix pavement and keep it hot. It can take cold patch and warm it to make it more suitable to put in potholes and stay in place. It's something that I think every town could use, and they range about $36,000. I think we could use it on all of our roads, and then when we're in any of the towns doing pothole work, they could piggyback on us. It holds approximately 4 tons of pavement. I think it's well worth us to purchase this piece of equipment and then, again, share with the towns to allow them to use it as well and do pothole work on their roads. So with that being said, with the grader and that, it's $502,000.
Can I get a motion on the floor? Okay, do we have a second? Supervisor Molino? Chairman Conover?
I think the hot box is a great piece. I'm surprised we don't have one, to be honest with you. And it's particularly, we had one situation, as you know, in Bolton, where I'll bet they filled the hole. Actually, you filled it a couple of times, even though the state of New York, and then the state of New York came in. Finally, they came in with it. I think they came in with their hot box. It's been good ever since. The only key is we got to be able to store the material so it doesn't freeze. We've got to have a certain amount of material. You can't do anything with rock solid mount in the back of it. You got to have it. But I could see where a piece of equipment like that could be used by all of us throughout the winter. Really. Some of these potholes, you're going back, travel, so you're going back over and over and over again. Where with this piece of equipment, you could take care of it, and it would hold it till quite some time, actually.
We'll let Mr. Garrity speak, and then we need to talk to Frank.
I'd like to know how much money you think you can get if you were to trade this piece of equipment in or sell it at auction, the old grade-off.
Danny said maybe $400,000 or $40,000, maybe.
Really, because we've been very successful selling used equipment on the auction.
We did purchase a loader this year, and we traded in our front-end loader for a new one, and they only gave us $25,000 for it.
Yeah, but you know, you guys are missing the boat on these loaders. I mean, a lot of the towns do the trade every 3 years, and you almost do it for nothing if you just keep upgrading the piece of equipment every 3 years. But anyways, you sure only 40,000 for a grade-off? That's all you think you can get?
That's the...
I mean, I would hope that whatever we sell it for, we take it off the side, we reduce the equipment code. The other thing is too, it just strikes me funny that, you know, we should really be budgeting closer to what it's gonna cost us, rather than inflating this. I mean, I thought we started that in 2009, where we went to the department heads and say, you know, don't inflate what you need, give us what you really need, and then we'll try to provide the money. It just bothers me that, you know, the numbers are inflated. That's your statement, maybe they weren't.
No, and I'd like to speak to that. I mean, Danny has historical numbers. He didn't have, you know, when the town of Stony Creek buys a truck and then we buy a truck, we don't buy it with the same piece of equipment on always. So we look at numbers, and he does a ballpark figure. Okay, based on our last truck that we had, you know, for a tandem, when we started with the stainless steel boxes, they were $250,000. We're down to $215,000 now. So I think the price that Danny had in there during budget process was probably $230,000, $240,000, may even have been at $250,000. I don't think that he's inflating it on purpose. I think he's doing it based on historical numbers. That he
Right,
has.
but I'm just saying, that's one of the things we started in 2009, trying to get closer to what we really need, and then you are able to purchase it. And I would hope that if whatever money we gather for selling this piece of equipment, I would hope it'd be more than $40,000, that we would reduce our equipment fund by that amount, or put it in a fund balance or do something with it.
What, you figure, a new grader, a couple hundred? 400. 400 for a grader?
400 for the grade off.
For a grade off.
Yep. I actually have a quote from, I want to say it's Think Equipment. We actually had a couple of quotes on it, and they were the lowest prices, approximately $400,000, 410, I believe it was.
We were looking, we call it a grader, but maybe a grade all is different.
Grade all is different. A grade all is the one with the boom.
Grader, yeah.
Okay, I get it, all right.
That's the one that drives down the road, and it's got the big, and like I said, it's got the boom type, and it's quite a piece of equipment.
Great boom when it drives down the road.
Yeah, it goes boom.
Oh, they use a lot of ditching.
Yep.
And on top of that, we rent one of those to supplement the one that we have as well every year.
Just a lot of money.
I just texted my highway super to ask him if he needs a grade off for 40 grand, so I'll let you know. So we ready for the question?
Well, you wanted to talk to...
Oh, yeah.
we got
But I do have...
We have to identify where this is,
How does Glens Falls fit into this?
I don't
It's in
think we
the southern
have,
part of the county.
yeah, I don't think we have county
Well, maybe
roads.
with like the hot box, but I know they don't do a lot of their paving anymore, so, but they fix their potholes, but...
Again, I'm promoting the hot box as being a part of Ryan's shared services. This would be an ideal situation that all the towns can piggyback on, and the city of Glens Falls as well. I have done paving for Bob in the past couple of years, or whether it's overlay, but they've also had some contractors come in and do some work for them as well. But I'd be more than willing, if we get the hot box, that if they would like to use it as well. I think it'll be a hot commodity come this time of year.
Mr. Leggett had his hand up.
Thanks. Our talented highway crew made our own hot box this winter. I said no one said it is a handy thing to have. It's made to fit into the back of a 350. So if you want to borrow it.
My question is, on the hot box, isn't it like the same time everybody kind of needs it?
It is, but again, as I proposed, if you do agree to the hot box, that if I'm in the town of Bolton doing potholes in Bolton, that Billy Sherman would call up those guys and say, hey, you guys are here, can we pay for the pavement, and we can do some of our roads while you guys are here.
Mr. Wild?
Yeah, it's more, my question is more related to the budgeting process, and that's why I wanted to get our budget officer to have a comment about this, because I know, and I'm not used to the budgeting, but I know we reduced the budget because we didn't know what was going to happen with sales tax. Sales tax came in like we anticipated it to be, so more than we anticipated. So this 500 and 2,000 or whatever it is really something, it looks like we took out of the budget originally because we didn't know what was going to happen with sales tax, with the condition that we're going to put it back in. But I'd rather have our budget officer help me understand that than me just guessing.
Well, if Kevin started out at 1.2, which you may have first meeting.
1.3, I think, the first
I
one.
think I did reduce it to 810,000. I took another 100. Brought it down to 600. Well, I did whack it.
About $500,000,
Not that much, yeah.
with the understanding that he could probably get by 1 year at $500,000 less.
Yeah, well, I felt some of the prices that were listed were inflated considerably. I mean, because, down Stony Creek's on a tandem, and believe me, our highways are cut no corners on that tandem. You pay 205 and we bought a box, it wasn't stainless steel, but if you had another 11,000, 215, 216,000, you could add a stainless box. Price that was put in front of me was 245.
Okay.
That irritates me. So.
How much was put in front of you, Frank? How much was that number again?
Frank.
Two? How much was put, what was that number again? What was put in front of you, two? Okay. Security.
But I do remember, we talked about if the fund balance was going to be over more than what we thought it was going to be, that we would go for these one-time items out of the fund balance. So the roads, that's why we just voted to do the roads that way. On this equipment, I know the Great All has been wavering for a few years, but I do believe, we haven't closed the books completely, but I think our fund balance is going to be higher than last year, correct? Which means we probably could do it as a one-time shot out of the fund balance and get it over with. And if it lasted 15 years, it's 15 years, we're not going to have to spend again.
Mr. Chairman, again, for our budget officer, is it time for another budget meeting so we can understand all these different requests that are pulling out of the fund balance? Instead of one at a time, and I may not even catch half of them, but I'm not saying what Kevin is asking for is by any means wrong or inappropriate. But I just want to get that bigger picture of what we're doing. It seems like we're pulling all sorts of places. And do we really have that big picture view other than you in terms of what's going in?
Yep.
So let's give Kevin a little bit to keep him going.
So,
Get that big picture view.
so we need to identify a source of funding, which the ask is.
The ask is that this would be taken from the fund balance.
And
Over last year.
Yeah, I think close to 400,000 is accurate.
It is. The latest quote I had for that was $410,800.
Committee feels that was part of the reason for doing these one-time things, was to give everyone a chance to say yes or no,
I think we stated that, correct.
rather than just have one big number.
Sales tax came in, as you know, although very strong so far this year, it seems to be clicking at just under 3% year over year, plus 3%.
That's 3% over last year.
Over last year, so, what we were hoping would be the case for the additional appropriations, at least to this moment in time, appears to be the case.
ready to...
So with that, are we ready for the question? Okay, all those in favor? signify by saying
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Any
Any further ask?
For more now?
No, I don't think I have anything else. We're going to have,
Just quickly.
You're gonna have
Point two and a half?
we're going to have the mayor here to talk about the sewer treatment plant. The mayor could not make it today. I did the pavement presentation. The last thing I want to touch on is I talked with Matt this week about this, the snow and ice contracts for the towns. I told you all last year that I would look into updating those. I'm still in that process. I'm getting some numbers. I've gotten some numbers from DOT, from Washington County. What I would request from some of the towns is if there's any way of you tracking your time, materials, appreciation of your trucks or damage or equipment, cost for repairs, if you could provide that to me, that'll give me some numbers as well. I did find out that Edna had told me that they're probably getting about $9,100 from the state, but Washington County only receives about $4,500 from the state to maintain to the snow and ice. So that's a huge difference, but I am working on that. And the last thing I had with the Advocacy Day thing was, one of the proposals that was made to Assemblyman Steck and to Senator Betty Little was to raise, you talk about raising the sales tax, was to raise the gas tax. The gas tax was supposed to be used at one time or another strictly for infrastructure, and then it became a pot of money that they grabbed, didn't take anywhere else. I proposed to Dan when we went down there is that maybe that should be thought about again, is the push to raise that gas tax. The state of Alabama just did it with no issues from, their voters, and they did it strictly for infrastructure improvements throughout the state.
That was a hot topic at the NACO conference also, is discussion about raising the gas tax. Supervisor
The
Miller?
problem with that is, and I agree, if we can do it, it goes to the state, and they're the ones that are going to control it when it comes back to the county. If you think about that 1%, we can guide it the way we want to guide it. I've been offering this for years. I still got I broke out my own proposal the other day, right here, back from 3 years ago. Some of the people should read this. We'd be in pretty good shape today, I really believe. But you go with that 1% gas, it's going to the state. There's no guarantee you're going to get a fair share of it.
We're sure there's a
That's how I
guarantee
look
we're
at
not
it.
going to get a fair
It's just we have control of it.
Well, and it's also more of a tax on the rural than it is the urban dweller.
On gas? Oh, yeah, with the
Yeah.
transportation.
That $20 use tax that we pay on our registration, supposed to be for our county roads? Everybody ever see it on the new registration? Well, it's a county road tax that's on our registrations. And the first time I saw it, it was a use tax, and I'm like, so when I registered my truck, I'm like, what's this use tax? I mean, it was a county road use tax. So on your registration, we pay an extra $20 on our registration. Do we get all that money?
It's chips.
I think there was a reference to this years ago. Since I've been on the board, somebody's brought that up, and I don't think we ever had a determination of...
It's a county, now it says county road use tax.
But maybe it's county to the state or county...
Well, this is
I don't know
what I'm
if it's
saying.
county
When it
to
goes down there, it
the...
never comes back.
I don't think it's county to the
But I heard
county.
it comes back in the forms of chips.
Okay, then that's going to the state.
But I don't trust them down there.
All right, let's go after them.
Okay, we have...
Elected.
Please.
Okay. The ca-
Are we going to just briefly talk about the capital?
That's exactly what we're going to do.
She give us back.
So we're not complete yet, everybody.
Sorry,
Sorry,
now
Sarah.
everybody's
Sorry.
so ready to get out of here.
So this is the capital improvement inventory.
Oh my gosh. Another subject. I gotta go this way. Discussion about reimbursement of the towns. You guys can't vote on that, can you?
Let me know when you're ready.
Let's get
I'll do a little
the
introduction. I'll just do a little introduction.
Okay.
Yes, what if you double it?
I had a question about that. It's just gonna be up to
I don't want to hear about Essex County.
So as you recall, in the State of the County address, the chairman had set forth a plan for a capital improvement plan, and this is in preparation of that plan, assessing the capital improvement needs in all the towns, city, along with the community college in the county. Town and county. And Sarah has the planning department.
Yeah. Yeah, they passed for,
Okay, so this has two parts. The first is a survey that we put together that we are planning to send out to all of the towns and some other entities as well. So this will be coming your way.
And the city. And the city.
And the city.
Yes.
Yeah.
You knew this was gonna happen.
I hope we don't have to click that many times to do the survey, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Just follow the instructions.
I'm in serious trouble.
We'll get it to you in paper form.
Braille.
You can just check the box.
While Sarah's pulling this up, I think that what the initial thing is going to come up with, partly answer your question, you're going to have one document, one spot where you can look at everything, which is going to be a very good thing, including estimates and that kind of thing. And the other thing is going to be, in terms of some of the supervisors that are wondering where the money's going to come from for an enormous capital responsibility going forward, this is going to be an underpinning to, I think, a much more involved discussion on all those fronts, because I think we're going to be seeing capital requirements that go into stratosphere, that go into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Then the question is, well, how are we going to pay for this going forward? But that comes on later. The first thing is the survey. Maybe you can talk a little bit, Sarah, about...
So I believe Ryan will be sending this out to everybody who will be participating. Basically, it'll be, all county projects, pool ensuring, Marina EDC, SUNY Adirondack Soil and Water, and then each of the towns in the city. So you'll select your entity, enter a project name, enter a brief description of what your project is. You can just put a dot on the map as to where it is. Select your category. So again, just the definition of a capital project, something that's an expenditure of significant cost that has a long useful life. So this isn't for vehicle purchases, it's not for maintenance, it's not small projects, but these are large, long-term projects. In a variety of categories, these are the categories that have been defined. So sewer, water, stormwater, transportation, parks, facilities, telecommunications, and energy. We're asking everybody to rate the priority of their project. So this is going to be a rolling 6-year plan. That's how the state defines a capital improvement plan, 6-year time period. So it should be something that has a realistic shot of happening or a high need for happening in the next 6 years. We're asking people to just kind of give a priority rating to hear high should be something that is mandated or already in the works. So is this project mandated? So is there a federal or state mandate associated with the project? What type is it? Expansion, replacement, improvement, a new project? And then where are you in the project? Is this just an identified need, a sort of wish list item that you'd like to see happen? Is it in the pre-design phase, design or construction phase? If you are at the pre-design, design or construction phase, what's the funding source or sources for your project? This can be partial. It could be a project that, you are in the pre-design phase and don't have money to get to the next stage. Also, we're asking to identify fiscal years. Obviously, 2019 and 2020 will be easier to pin down if it hasn't been scheduled yet. Choose not scheduled. If it is a project that's started or short to start, soon to start, enter your start date, estimated completion date. Some contact information. There's also the opportunity here to upload documents. If you've got any reports, design documents, cost estimates, things like that associated with the project. And then you'll submit that. You'll do that for each project in your town. And then the end result, after that, it'll all come to me. I'm going to put it in this interactive sort of project dashboard, which I believe ultimately this will be, a public version of this will be available, but this will be a planning tool for the budgeting process. I think this can be used both at the town level and at the county level. We have all these filters over here so that they can be filtered by year, by type of project, by phase of the project, category. an interactive map, so as you zoom in, select a specific project, it'll give you more information about the project, sort of the total project costs associated with, this is not filling in right now for whatever reason, but this kind of gives a dollar amount to anything that's selected over here. So
We already did it. Did you?
we used Warrensburg as a guinea
Imagine
pig.
that. Sarah, on one thing that if we go back a little, you don't need to go back on the PowerPoint, but when you mentioned small project or project size, I think maybe we need to do some clarification because I know I think we would want to get behind us. Say if a town needed a replacement salt shed, that's something that could be affecting our our water and
Yep.
it may not be $1 million
Yeah.
or 800,000, but it's something that's significant to the county.
Right.
I don't want
Yeah,
people
we
to
don't
think
have
that.
a definition of
Yeah.
that. So Onondaga County, which there are maybe half a dozen counties in the state that we found, capital improvement plans for similar to what we're thinking about doing. Onondaga County has a nice one. They defined a significant project as $250,000 or more. We didn't come up with a definition, but that's something for the board to discuss, I guess. At this point, you can put anything in there.
Yeah.
So you don't have to limit it to,
Sewer water.
we know there's small towns and they're a big need for the town, so even if it's less than $250,000, I think,
So
I don't have a problem with you putting it in there.
I'm unclear now, do they have to have county relevance?
No,
That's just what it felt
no,
like
it
you
was
just
just I didn't want to be minimize. I don't want to minimize the scope of the inventory. Salt shed is something. We all, if we can help somebody get a salt shed.
You should go
you know,
very little. That's where we got
Right.
our...
That's what we need to do is
Very
identify.
helpful that way. I think.
They paid for ours.
Right.
So I guess the bottom line is you can put, as long as it's not regular maintenance type of project or a vehicle purchase,
When in doubt,
you can
include it.
include it,
Yeah.
and then we can filter it out afterwards.
Also, you may not know the project cost, like you might have, let's pick something up, sewer extension, or water extension, whatever. Maybe it's a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 project that you're thinking about right now, but, the architectural or engineering and the soft costs haven't been done yet, right? But, so we'll be able to look at this and say, okay, well, community, whatever, they need to hire an architect or engineer. We have some ideas on maybe how to get the funding, but we can't get the funding unless they have a more mature submittal to the funding agency. And the funding agency is going to want to know, first question, is this part of a regional plan? They assign points based on that. So a lot of projects, don't get funded because they're going in as, they're viewing it like as a municipality, not as part of a bigger regional planning effort. So it's going to help in many, many, many different ways, I think.
Mr. Wild?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sarah, thanks. Are we asking Ed Bartholomew and the EDC to put in their projects and their inventory and the things that they feel that they need? That'd be great, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, we have to leave breadcrumbs above the Queensbury property line so he knows his way north.
That leads me to
He's going to be here next week, right?
We're still on TV, gentlemen.
that leads me to
That was funny.
another question. If we're opening up to the EDC, how about IDA? There's a bi-county park that we have infrastructure needs there also.
The airport, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just one comment. They came to us and asked us to give our projects, and we're the guinea pigs only because,
Right.
but I think we had a pretty good list already set up, except for, our highway guy wasn't there, so.
Yeah,
What we
he
did
needs
is we
to
went
work.
right through water, sewer, facilities, went right down the list and gave them what we have. And we had a couple that we
Bridges.
applied for money, we haven't gotten yet. We got turned down by the WEHA grant and, we reapplied, but that's how we did it. So it was a good exercise. I think we spent 2 hours there, but I think it's very helpful.
It's a very powerful document when you have all this inventoried.
Yeah, I didn't know she
And,
had it up
you
there.
can tell a story of really, where we're at.
Where we're at.
You
yeah.
get to thinking when you're sitting there saying,
You might have streetscape, it's just you've never,
we had one.
you haven't identified
We
it,
did.
but
We
you
did.
know it's gonna be a big number, and so that, you should include it, right? Streetscape in the hamlet or in wherever, in the village or whatever, and then if you don't know, if there's information you don't know, well, you don't know, but you've identified it, and then maybe we can help get that to a certain point in time, like the city, for example. The city's got, stormwater, parking garages, streetscape, I mean, sewer, water, I mean, it just boggles the mind, but this is going to allow us to comprehensively see, hopefully, whatever Danny can provide for the city in one document, or one program, in one place. Right now, we can't put our finger on a comprehensive list for Warren County. In fact, Wayne was telling me that he applied once, he got a $250,000 grant because he attended a committee meeting where something was discussed, and he heard it at the meeting. And because of that, he thought to himself, geez, I might be able to get some money for that. And that's how we ended up getting I believe it was a 100% grant, but it was a large grant for the project, not because it was in a report and he knew that was a county need, but because he heard it at a meeting. So, this is going to be a much more efficient way to share information.
Trajan?
I just wanted to add on, as Kevin said, he was a guinea pig. Actually, Sarah had asked me to put in one of our projects,
Yeah.
put in the courthouse project. It was very simple. It's a simple task, and it took me probably, 20 minutes, and I had everything in for that. I didn't have all the plans and everything in for it, but it was very easily done.
What the rules of the road will be later and the follow-on steps, we will decide collectively as a collective body how we can or should assist in this regard, besides from a technical point of view. But it could be as simple as helping with some architectural and engineering costs, half the price of architectural engineering for a project on the upfront, for example, up to a certain maximum amount based upon it's submitted by a certain point in time each year. That's just one example. The many other kinds of things, including, submitting consortium applications amongst a number of municipalities. When you do that, you get more points, and plus our experts are going to be able to guide us into the right cubbyhole, because a lot of times you may not be aware of something that's available. It's just, you haven't heard about it, or no one's spoken to you about it. Well, here, we're going to have planners going to be looking at this, and just might call up one of these supervisors and say, hey, you've got this funding coming up, this project you've got in your municipality fits into that category.
Yeah, this will be a great tool for us as far as, right now we're in discussion as to what we're planning to apply as the CFA funding comes up. So we'll definitely be a good tool for us to help figure out what we want to assist with applying for grant funding for, as well as, all the general planning.
And if you haven't got the gist, it's going through this committee, so you all will be intimately involved.
You needed the best in the place.
Just one thing I want to point out, again, when you get the survey, all the other entities, the non-municipal entities are at the top. If you click on counties, there's this will be Kevin's little project here. But
There's a lot
scroll,
in there.
big project. Scroll down and make sure you're picking your municipality. So you're not entering county projects, you're entering your own town level projects. They don't have to have a county impact.
I'm just curious why we have a separate entity for pool insurance.
That was a request from Ryan. I don't know why exactly, but he requested I add that in.
Let Glens Falls kind of deal with that, but maybe because we're so intimately tied financially.
That's an interesting question, though, that you asked. I mean, I don't know that we'll resolve it today or at this point, but like, for example, the city has development organizations, so we do in Bolton as well. As I know, Andrea does as well. So now we're going to need to think about, for example, in Bolton, Norwalk, for example, how do I represent them here? You're probably going to have to do the same thing on your end with some of your groups.
Oh, okay.
And I have a lot of flexibility at the back end too, so if things don't make sense, call me up and we can, change questions. This is a designed from scratch database for managing all of this, so we can do whatever we need to do to accommodate, all the various different...
This will be regularly updated so that it won't go stale. It will have some specific periods where information will be updated so that sometimes these things start and then they get old. This information can get dated very quickly. Projects get built, right?
Yes.
Needs change. Yeah. So we want to be able to allow the municipalities themselves to tell us
Hi, Gene.
their story is current as it is.
Mr. Leggett?
Yeah, sure, this is beautiful, and along with Chairman's directive of the infrastructure, I think it's going to be a great tool for the county. Obviously, you're brilliant with, is this an art? Yes. How long does something like this take to pull together? This is
Well, I think the thing that took the longest was just kind of trying to think through the process and get the process defined, and I'm sure we'll go through a refining process of that as people start filling out the survey and we start getting information back. So, yeah, and then as far as keeping it up to date, I mean, I'm not sure how long that's going to take yet, but I would say, this took probably a few weeks of thinking and then a couple days of building.
That I can ask, right? Sarah, I saw something about funding. Did you have any data fields for grants?
Yes, so behind the scenes, so basically I just want to, one other thing is when you enter this, right now I set this up, so when you enter the information in the survey, it's coming to me to review before I enter it here into the sort of dashboard, so it will not show up immediately when you enter it. That's just because we're kind of in the figuring of all of this out. At some point, I would like it so that as soon as that data gets entered into the survey, it will come straight through. But behind the scenes, I have some fields for potential funding sources, so that we weren't sure if the towns were going to be able to, were familiar enough with all the grant programs to be able to identify funding sources themselves. But I do have fields in the database for tracking that, and I can put that in the survey if it's something that I think is worth collecting in the survey.
I'm thinking that there's costs, and there's some grants,
Yes.
and there's some match,
Yeah.
and then there's some economic benefit that may come from some of these projects that somebody might just kind of throw some numbers out at. But it would be good to have, I think in some instances, what it might do for us. Kind of like what happens with OCTAX. That's all I'm going to say, that we have these events where we bring in 5 million people to stay in our hotels and stuff like that. So,
Are you saying enter funding sources as potential or only
No.
secured?
So right now, in here, I just left this very open-ended because I wasn't sure what people were going to enter as far as funding sources. So you can just kind of type whatever you want to in here, and then I have multiple fields behind the scenes as far as breaking it out into actual funding. Is it coming? Is there a match involved? Is this, do we have a potential funding source via this grant opportunity? So I didn't want to overcomplicate this for the people filling out the forms.
Much appreciated.
But I do have, it is more complicated behind the scenes for us to try to keep track of match and all of that kind of stuff.
Hold on, Mike. Don't leave yet till we would lose a quorum.
adjourn?
I know, I'm like, come on.
Motion to adjourn? We're done?
No, are we complete? Anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, great work.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn?
Okay, nothing else,
yeah.
motion to adjourn, do we have a second? Supervisor Hogan, all those in favor?
Aye.
I wasn't gonna let you run.